And I think that I don't talk too much about it with horses in the notes, but we can definitely talk about that. And if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to ask. We're going to talk about creating healthy boundaries. And we're going to start off with the definitions, which it's just always so fun when I do that. You know, I love words, I love language, and just to bring the whole thing in, even when I'm writing it and just, you know, looking up the definitions, it kind of grounds me into what we're going to be talking about. So boundary, something that indicates bounds or limits. And then a limiting or bounding line. And I thought that was so fun because maybe we could start to visualize sometimes that line. Okay, well, we're not allowed to cross over that line. And maybe we need to make different lines, different colors or different sizes, or maybe sometimes we need a brick wall, but a limiting or bounding line. And for me, that kind of made it feel like it was something that was either drawn or created with a fence. And then create, to cause to come into being as something unique that would not naturally evolve or that is not made by ordinary processes. So when we're talking about creating boundaries, it actually is going to take a little bit of energy on our part, because in the natural flow of things, we may end up getting kind of scooped up and taken in a direction that we don't want to go because of the energies around us. So why do we need boundaries? When we talk about a boundary in our life, it can pertain to many different things. So we can be talking about work, about the stable, family, vendors, friends, volunteer jobs. Okay, we always volunteer for things, kids or parents. And then we'll end up talking about it, but that line that we might make with our horses. But I don't really mention it in this because we're talking about life right now. So work, stable, family, vendors, friends, volunteer jobs, kids, or parents. And what is it that we need to make boundaries about? Our time, effort, energy, stress, responsibility, the atmosphere, the environment, maybe money exchange. I'm just writing down some things that came quickly to my mind. So if you want to add other things, please feel free to jump right in. But this was kind of most important in my book. So if we do not set boundaries, we will find ourselves buffeted around by the whims of others. This can be dangerous with horses. So if you imagine that we don't set any boundaries with our horses, we don't let them know what's allowed and what's not allowed, all of a sudden we're living in horse world. And when they are 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds, 1,400 pounds, that could be unhealthy for us. So if we don't set boundaries, we end up getting buffeted around. Personally, I find that our horses are awesome gauges for where we need improvement if we listen. So how do we find the boundaries that are right for us? The first thing we need to think about is our values, our beliefs, our goals, and maybe what we stand for. And then we can also think about what are hard lines and what are soft lines. And I think that the hard line and the soft line, like what's non-negotiable, like what's absolutely non-negotiable, and what are you a little bit flexible about, but you do have certain beliefs in a direction that you want to live your life in about something. So this is a really awesome journaling opportunity. One of the best ways to get clarity on this is to journal. And I think that with all of the things that we're talking about, what, you know, your goals and your values and your beliefs, we really want to know that they are fluid. People get nervous about, well, she said I have to pick 3 values and there's 400 values. And what if that changes? I don't want to commit to just 3 values. But it's going to change over time. What's super important to you right now might not have been as important to you 5 years ago. And it might not be as important to you, maybe partly because you deal with some certain things in your life in 5 years from now. You might not have to focus on that value anymore. You might have to bring out something else that becomes more important. And the values that you're thinking about now and you're living now might actually just start being. You don't even have to think about it or work out it. You might just start living it. So things that were okay with you at one point in your life might not be now. On the other hand, things that you used to put up with a little bit might no longer be acceptable. And this is okay. The only thing about it is be sure that the reason why you're changing is because you're open-minded and because these things now benefit you, not because you're losing track of yourself and you just don't have the energy to care about it anymore. And somebody else's opinions are kind of smothering you or dragging you along. So it's fine if there are things that you didn't like and now you're being more open-minded about. This is okay. But as long as it's not because you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't listen to him anymore. And now I'm getting dragged down that road. So if you journal once a week, specific to a boundary practice, this might help you maintain clarity. And then you might start to notice where people are influencing you. And maybe it's in a really good way, or maybe you're ending up kind of being pulled in a direction that you really don't want to. And I always talk about it that it's much easier to nip things in the bud. It's much easier to have those tough conversations or have the talk about changes that you want to make or changes that you don't want to make when the subject is new, because otherwise it might turn into a monster. And the more we don't talk about it and the more we don't deal with it, then the bigger it becomes. Now, when we're talking about horses, this brings us back to that webinar that we did, which was like, say what you need to say, right? And if we look at it with horses, can we think about this in a positive way. So instead of saying, that we have to tell our horse all the time, no, that's not allowed. No, we're not doing it like that. No, we're not going there. No, we are not going too fast. Can we think about setting those boundaries as a standard and inviting the horse into that relationship and into that connection at that high standard? And so now what's happening is we really want to be clear about what we want and about what's not allowed very quickly, so that our communication is flowing in a much easier way, rather than feeling like we're not allowed to say what we need to say. We're not allowed to give the horses those boundaries. And then all of a sudden they're stepping out of line so much that then we feel like we have to be really strong. So I started to visualize that, but for myself, and it was kind of a fun picture of not having to make this hard, strong, aggressive line, but instead really having clarity about what I wanted from my horse and how I wanted the ride to go, and then being able to do these small direction that kept them inside of that line. And so it started to look a little bit different than, wrangling them in because they stepped really far outside of the lines. So getting back to us, take time to tune in to your own needs and wants. Take time to notice your own emotions and feelings and be responsible for these. Practice difficult conversations ahead of time. If possible, maybe even practice with a friend. Say no when you need to, and say yes when it aligns with where you are going and how you want to get there. And this is so important, because if you set a big goal, but your values are saying that there's certain things that are going to get you progressing on that route, but there are other things that you're unwilling to do. In a very simple way, I would like to do something at school, and I would like to get an A, and that is my goal, to do this class and to get an A. I am unwilling to cheat on my tests. Okay? I'm unwilling to ride my horse when it's lame. I really want to go to these shows. I would like to have this competition success. I have this goal of going to this big year event, end of the year event, and I'm going to qualify it over the summer. That is my big goal. I am unwilling to sacrifice my horse's wellness for that. So not only do we say yes to things and to people that are in alignment of where we're going, but we also want to be sure that they are going in the same way, whether they're people that we are our friends, or we are paying to help us, or whatever that is. It can be, family, friends, whatever the subject is. Where are we going and how are we going to get there? We're not going to rob a bank to buy the big house. These are the kind of things we need to have clarity about. So then we want to set intentions with our actions and with conversation. So be an example of our values and beliefs. Be careful not to get swept away by someone else's issues and forget to honor your own path. So we need every day, every week, every month, we need to set these intentions. We might even journal about them. So because I have these goals and I have these values, I'm going to set this intention for today, how my day is going to unfold. And because I set the intention in the morning, the certain decision times during the day where I could get kind of taken off my path, I will have already made those decisions in my mind, set those intentions, and it's going to be much easier for me to make that decision and carry out what I really want to. And then remember that small steps are enough to make a change. And in certain circumstances, standing still may also help in a moment of uncertainty. So if we really aren't sure what is the best decision for us to make in that moment, we have somebody trying to convince us of something, we're unsure if we want to go on that road or not, stand still for a minute, give yourself that pause, and then if you need to do more research, have more conversation, sleep on over the night on it, whatever it is. But remember that sometimes standing still for a minute, not getting stuck and stagnant, but sometimes standing still can also help when we are uncertain. So we have something that we maybe thought was a hard boundary. We have an opportunity, and the opportunity is conflicting with this boundary. And then we're going to stand still, create a pause, research it, find out what was our boundary off. Is this actually doing this or changing for this? Is that going to benefit me in some way? Or is standing still just avoiding for a minute that hard conversation so that you can practice the conversation and then come with the right words and without some kind of uncomfortable tension and emotions? So we always feel like we need to make those decisions right away. Somebody's going to be upset with us, and then we might be dragged in the wrong direction or the direction that we don't really want to go in. So then we want to practice giving ourselves that pause. And then for soft boundaries, maybe the 80-20 rule can help sometimes. So if you're talking about healthy eating or something like this, that you don't want to say, I absolutely never eat ice cream. But we also might not want to eat ice cream breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. So is that something that the 80-20 rule might help with? If I'm good 80% of the time, and then I let myself indulge 20% of the time, then I think I'm going to still be pretty healthy. So, does anybody have any questions? Is this making sense so far? I hope so. Some important boundaries. So, time. What do you want to spend your time on? All of this, everything here, I will send you the notes, but I think it's all an opportunity for journaling. Sometimes we get to certain places, and I think this is like an awesome time right now as we move from summer through the fall into winter. And winter does change some things one way or another, but it's a time where we we feel the seasons are changing, the trees are letting go of their leaves, it's getting darker earlier, all these things. So it can be a catalyst for change. So if we journal a little bit about these things and don't actually take action yet, but just journal about them a little bit, that will give you that incentive then to start to make the changes when it feels right. So what do you want to spend your time on? What do you have to spend your time on? And what could you start eliminating? And then by eliminating some things, could you add more of the things that you enjoy? Effort. Are there places that I'm efforting against the tide? Is there a way I could look at the situation differently? Is it a boundary issue? Or is it part of my belief system? So when we put a lot of effort in and we feel like we're efforting, but nothing is budging, nothing is budging. Is that because we aren't setting up those boundaries with the people around us? Is it that we are ending up taking on other people's jobs? Or do we feel like people should be doing other things that they're not? And is that kind of weighing us down and making us feel like we're putting in more effort? Are we efforting at something because that's how we were brought up and that's how we were taught to do it? And if you're not working hard, you shouldn't be successful. Is there another way to look at that where I could actually ask for help, or I could use a different program on my computer that could try to help that? Could I delegate some of this? What is it? Has something been delegated and then it keeps falling back on me because the person is being irresponsible? Where am I putting in effort that should be flowing a little bit? And it can be a boundary with other people. It also can be a little bit in the belief system, and we want to look at both things in that case. Energy. So where are places that your energy goes that you would prefer to conserve it? Is it flowing out or being drained by some things in your day that really could change, really don't feel good? What would you rather spend that energy on? Can I improve my energy level with good and healthy habits? So I find for myself personally that sometimes I will allow people to drain my energy. And then because I have allowed that to happen, then I won't take care of myself. I won't eat properly, or I won't do my workout or something like that, because I've allowed somebody on the outside to deplete my inside. And so I have to be really careful of that. And even if I do let people get me a little bit down, I really want to set the intention in the morning that even if I don't feel like making myself a healthy meal, that I am going to do it. Or I might, even if I know I have a difficult conversation or meeting or something like this, I actually might even prep my food ahead of time. And then I'll have that will in part B, setting the intention. And then I'll look at all the food out there that won't, it's already out on the table. It's not in the refrigerator. It's all chopped up. Everything is ready and good to go. And so then I, even though my energy got dipped with that conversation or meeting, I'll be able to bring it back up by taking care of myself. So we want to be careful about that. Are there people that are interfering with my self-care? So that's a little bit what I was just talking about. Could I create better boundaries around this? Okay, sometimes we really can, but I think it takes time. So oftentimes, whether it's work or family, where people are in habits of treating either people in certain positions or each other in a certain way, absolutely, we can start to create boundaries around that. But it takes time, and it has to be little by little. And people don't really like to change or be threatened with change. So we, as the one that's starting to like reel things in and take care of ourselves, we need to do that step by step and really realize on the inside that it might be met with a little bit of pushback, but that's not going to let you change that you want that boundary. It's just that you're going to be building that line, building that fence little by little, maybe a little bit higher. Maybe you visualize it getting a little bit higher each week or each month. Each conversation, you start to set that intention about how you want to be treated, how you want this, whether it's work or whatever. You start to ask for things to be different, but you can't go from 0 to 60 in 1 hour, because people need time to adjust because they're used to things. And we need to get better about creating that feeling that we are able to be treated in this improved way. So would that the boundaries, would they free up more energy? As you start to set those lines, it is going to free up more energy for you, because you're going to be free to move in your space and free to be yourself in those circumstances without worrying about somebody telling you that you should do it this way, or telling you that they don't like what you're doing, or you're not allowed to do what you're doing, or that you need to work 3 hours overtime, or whatever it is. Over time, people are going to know where you stand, and that's going to feel very freeing, and that energy will be more available for the things that you want to spend it on, for the things that are important to you. And then just imagine that saying, where focus goes, energy flows. So if you are having to focus a lot on really creating those boundaries every day, and you're having to, like, again and again and again, that's going to take a lot of your energy. So little by little, build those non-negotiable bricks in the wall, that people start to really honor them wherever they need to be. And this is, we talked about it. It came up last week because we were simply talking about the time at the barn, and people, taking up, whether you're talking on the phone, or you're talking to a friend when you get to the barn, or It can be that a vendor comes and wants to talk to you about a product that they have or whatever. And how do we kind of extricate ourselves out of that conversation so that we can get to what we want to be doing and keep ourselves on schedule? And this is, again, where the focus goes, the energy flows. So if we are thinking, what are they going to think of us if we say I have to go? Are they going to think I'm rude? I don't want them to think I'm rude. I really want them to think that I'm nice. I just have to go because I really would like to be tacking up my horse right now. But he's going to think that, I'm impatient or that I'm not nice. And so that all of that back talk is taking you away from creating that sentence. That is simple. It's simple, but we don't think about it because we're thinking about all the other stuff. I'm really sorry. I would love to talk to you about this, but right now you've caught me at a difficult time and I need to get ready for my meeting, for my lesson, and just because it's something fun and that brings joy to you. So what if it doesn't have anything to do with work? And what if it doesn't have anything to do with taking care of somebody else, but it actually has to do with something you want to do for yourself? It's still okay to tell them that you're busy and you would like to have this conversation at another time. I think that's a really important thing, because if you're really stressed about doing something for your boss, it's very easily coming out, oh my gosh, I've got to get this work done because I've got a deadline here. But if we're trying to do it for ourselves, sometimes we will hold back. So give yourself the same priority. And then stress. So how are we not putting boundaries up about taking on other people's stress or being stressed about other people's opinions, making mistakes? I see a lot of my coaching clients really taking on the stress of people in their life because the friend or the colleague is not taking action. And so then they are spending a lot of energy and stress over, and we end up in the coaching calls talking about that for a good part of the call, which should be more focused on them and the things that they want to do. But instead, we end up kind of having to work through the stress that they're feeling. Can be, anybody, a friend, your a partner or whatever, where you are more stressed that they're not taking action than they are. So we want to be careful about that. We all have our own journeys, and as hard as it is to watch, and absolutely we can be try to influence a little bit here and there, but we must not take on the stress of it. If they're not, then we must not. And then also absolutely not, as best we can, the fear of other people's opinions, what they think of us, what they think about how we do things, what making mistakes. We need to put boundaries on ourselves that say, I am going to limit that bad behavior. And when we see ourselves ruminating about it, we need to visualize that line in the sand that says, no, that person and their opinions of me absolutely do not make any difference to me. And so that opinion is over there, and I have a boundary. It does not get in here. It does not affect me and how I operate. All right. Responsibility. Are you taking on responsibilities that are not yours? Are you stepping up where you need to so that there is flow? So I think that that's an important thing. We need to make sure that we keep our standards. So if things aren't flowing, sometimes that's because our mindset gets mixed up and we don't take action. We are not stepping up. Maybe we're blaming somebody else, or we've gotten depleted in our energy and then something feels difficult. And so we're not taking responsibility for those things that really need to be worked out so that we get that flow back. So sometimes the boundaries need to be with ourselves, and we mustn't take on other people's responsibilities, whether it's in work, in a home, in somebody that we pay to do something for us that doesn't step up to the plate. We need to say it. It's important to me. I pay you for this. And this was our agreement. Do we need to renegotiate it? But I'm not going to take the responsibility on either to do that or not have it done, because my standard is here. My standard is not down here. So do I need to find somebody else? But we must be very careful. And of course we end up doing this, but as much as we can, make boundaries. Don't take on the responsibilities that are other people's. And then a funny one is atmosphere. What kind of boundaries can you create about your energy world? So how can you create practices that will keep you safe from toxic energy? Where can you influence the atmosphere you are in and bring positivity without draining you? Do I need to remove myself from certain situations? Or can I create a little bit of a mental barrier and do a little bit intention practice before I walk into a situation that might feel toxic? Is it people? It's what's not fun. It's not fun being around people that are gossiping a lot about other people. It's not fun being around people that are, one way to somebody's face and then different behind their back or something like this. So how do we create those boundaries? Because there can be a lot of energy drained out just because we're uncomfortable in certain atmospheres. So where do we need to take care of ourselves? Do we extricate ourselves from and not go to those parties or not hang around with those people? Or is it something that we really have to do, but we have to set that intention, and maybe even with a friend, don't let me partake in those conversations, or, if that all starts up, remind me that we want to leave, these kind of things, so that we're all the time building up that nice vibration around ourselves and living in the atmosphere that we want to be. We're creating that energy body and energy in our surroundings that we feel comfortable with. And everybody's different, but we're trying to build that up all the time. Environment. Where are the boundaries in your living, working, and stable space? Are you taking responsibility for keeping things up because your standards are higher than those around you? Or are you allowing yourself to live, work, or ride in a place that's less than satisfactory? And how can you influence this? So again, as I was thinking about all the places that we have the possibility of making boundaries, and then how can certain boundaries influence other ones? I think the environment, it control what we can control, and then to a certain degree we're going to have to be a little bit tolerant of the things that we don't have influence over. But over time, as we start to recognize that we are more comfortable in this environment than that one, we're more comfortable around this, some people, for instance, simply love living in the city, and some people love living in the country, and some people are like to have get up early, and so maybe somebody else likes to sleep in a little bit later. What is it that helps you to feel your best? And a lot of times we don't even notice because we're just in the routines that other people have given us, or we're living somewhere that somebody else wanted us to. And even if this is the case, what part of my day can I spend living, doing something that is bringing up my bringing that, letting me spend time in that environment that I would like to be in. And I think that there's no time where we have all of our life environments all exactly where we want them to be, but we also need to set intentions for that, so that if it starts to get far out of whack, I mean, I just think of things like, am I working with people that are smoking all the time? Or, I there's certain things that I would prefer not to be around. Do I have to do a job that entails certain chemicals or something like that? That would be something, if it was necessary and I really had to do it, that would be something that I would start to build up tactics and get myself out of that situation. And then I would build up those nice boundaries that I don't get myself back in that situation again. And it's a lot of these are really about us and where we let ourselves go. And then all of a sudden we find that we get tired or we get uncomfortable and we don't even know why. So the last but not least, money, or money for time exchange. So this one, can be really difficult, but is there any aspect of a job or a interaction with your boss that needs reevaluating? And there a relationship that's draining you because of misunderstanding or differences in values regarding money, or even something that was set up a while back, but now circumstances have changed, but the discussion hasn't come up, or people are avoiding it. So money is a really big one for many, many people. And I think it's some people find it really super easy to talk about. Other people find it harder, but definitely journal and evaluate those things if there's an area that's letting you feel, or that you feel strained or stressed about, whether it's in your personal relationships or work or somebody you're helping or whatever it is. We do need to reevaluate those month by month too, so that we feel energetic and affluent and living in an abundant way, and not feeling depleted because we have something. It can be so many things. I mean, you just think about subscriptions or money that's going out of your account that you tried to turn it off, but then it's not, there're just so many aspects of that these days. So good to keep track, and then make really clear boundaries about that for yourself too, and for other people, what they ask for from you. All right. So why do we want to set healthy boundaries? Protect our energy and our values, build stronger relationships, more flow as we go after our goals, and separate our thoughts, needs, and emotions from others. So I should have put a big asterisk on that, but separate our thoughts, needs, and emotions from others. So we know what's ours and what's somebody else's. And the journaling and the intention setting can really, really help with this. So we want to protect our physical space. We want to create self-respect, responsibility for our own happiness, and then not being responsible for other people's happiness, and create an overall more joyful life doing the things that bring energy and fulfillment. So, with horses, we talked a little bit in the middle there about when we are setting boundaries with them, and why I believe that they are so good for us is that they're going to be challenging us to speak up. Our horses are going to be challenging us to speak up. And if there's certain areas that you feel your horse is pushing you to talk about, that might be something that's also going on in another area of your life. Now, they're not going to be talking to you about money, but they might be taking too much, for instance. Right? You feel like you're riding and you want to stretch low and deep, and you give an inch and they take a mile, and they do it in a little bit of a naughty way. Okay. So then you feel like I can't give at all. This is a lesson. We need to teach the horses that we can give. And what we give, they are allowed to take, but they're not allowed to take more. So how does that lesson turn into our life? We can get beat up because we try to give a little bit, and then some people around us start taking more, and then more, and then more, and then all of a sudden we close up and we say, now I can't give anymore because it's that the people around me are just sucking me dry. But we are the ones that get to say, here, this I am giving you, but I'm not giving you more than that. And it's okay. And so I find it with the horses really, really helpful. There's just so many things now. And I that was just a little bit of an example that kind of popped into my head. But I would love to know through this week how you feel that this might apply to your relationship with your horses. And as you think about the boundaries and sometimes the lack of the boundaries, where could improvement be made? And what is the most important boundary that needs to be stronger? And then you feel that all the other ones would improve. So do I need to make stronger boundaries about my energy or about responsibility or whatever? If I tackled that one, and sometimes they can also be about ourselves, right? But if I start tackling that, I might find that the other ones start to feel a lot easier. And then what is holding you back? If you're struggling during the week and you really want to start setting that boundary, but it feels hard, what's holding you back? So I would love to either write it down and share it next week, or you can send me an email about it. I can share it or not. You guys tell me how you want. But I think that this was a lot, but a lot of fun.